sponsored by courts, bringing value home. Bodies of father and son found in their home must have been lying there for days, relatives say. Parliament to hear motion on new Ministry of Welfare. Combined Labour Movement supports the motion. And escape of Kobina Stevens and Paul Goraya. Hunt still on for the escapees, says the prison director. HGP Nightly News begins now. Good evening to our viewers here in Guyana and online. I am Travis Chase with the Tuesday, July 10 edition of the HGP Nightly News. Here's what you need to know this evening. Guyana is being urged to invest more in its national security sector. This view was expressed by U.S. Ambassador Perry Holloway, who suggested that Guyana needs to do more to fight the occurrences of crime. Javon Vickery opens our broadcast with this story.
Recent statistics released by the Guyana Police Force indicates that there has been a slight decrease in the number of crimes committed compared with the corresponding period last year. But crime continues to happen, and it has now caught the attention of U.S. Ambassador Perry Holloway, who suggested that Guyana invests more in its national security sector. Ambassador Holloway, who was at the time addressing a gathering at an event hosted by the Guyana Manufacturing and Services Association, explained that the investment by businesses to guard against criminal elements has placed a dent in their profitability. The ambassador observed that with an imminent oil and gas sector, there are concerns about how Guyana will handle its national security. He said that while plans will be put in place to address this issue, criminal minds will be doing likewise.
One of the things that I think that everyone is worried about, and I heard a little bit of it there, is what is going to happen when oil gets here. I don't think it's oil and gas that attracts crime. I think it's more people, more money. So Guyana could be having a boom in stevia. We were talking about stevia, an agricultural product, but if it brought more money and more people, well, you guys are good business people. Well, let me tell you, the criminals out there are also business people, and what do they want? The same thing that you want, a profit.
The ambassador noted that most times, profits which could have gone towards development projects as part of businesses' social responsibility have to be invested in heightened security measures. Ambassador Holloway made the point that compared with the rest of the Caribbean, Guyana is investing the least amount of funds in its security sector. He suggested that more needs to be done by the government.
You can't have police or GDF or other officials, going after 21st century criminals with 19th century equipment and institutions. It just can't be done. So I think everyone, their heart is in the right place, and I think both the previous government and the current government has spent a lot of money on security. The U.S. government has probably over the last 10 years, I think, invested close to about 80 million maybe in security, certainly in the region, a couple of $100 million. And we've seen some good results. But the other lesson that I learned, especially in Colombia, is it is always a game of 3 steps forward and 2 steps backwards.
The U.S. ambassador asserted that even with international assistance to help Guyana fight crime, it will take an all-hands-on-deck approach to deal with crime on a large scale.
It's fine for the Americans to come in and offer some help. It's fine for the Brits to come in and have a security program. But if the government and the people and the private sector and civil society do not want it, all programs are going to fail. It requires political will, but I don't mean that just at the politician level. Everyone's got to decide this is something we want to deal with, and we're willing to put our money towards it, our energy towards it, and we're going to build our institutions.
Javon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Javon. Still on the police blotter. The authorities have not given up the search for several escaped prisoners, including the 2 notorious escapees who made a dash for it after the Camp Street prison fire of July 2017. Here are the details. Police are still hunting 2 escaped prisoners, both of whom have been missing for about 1 year now. July 9 marked exactly 1 year since remanded murder-accused Kobina Stevens escaped from the Camp Street prison. 26-year-old Kobina Stevens, also called OJ, formerly of Middlewalk Buxton, was on remand when he escaped while prisoners were being transported to the Lusignan prison after the Camp Street prison had been torched. Law enforcement officials have not given up hope that the men will be recaptured, says Prison Director Gladwin Samuels.
Paul Garaya lives, his last known address was just outside of the Timmery prison, in the Timmery prison area. So staff are constantly looking for him. They have police who are on general patrols and so on. They have not given up the hunt for these persons.
Paul Garaya, a convicted murderer, had escaped from the holding area of the Lusignan prisons. Police had said that Garaya escaped along with 12 others after he was transported to the Lusignan jail. Director Samuels pointed out that law enforcement officers are not in search of Garaya and Stevens only, but others who would have escaped over the years.
While it is not in the news every day, we have a number of other persons who would have escaped over the years. Efforts are always being made in terms of having these persons recaptured. We do circulation of names and possible description. We have prison officers and other persons who are familiar with these persons in villages that they are from and so on, who are constantly looking for them.
Rayon Jones, Pascal Smith, Tishon McKenzie, Kendall Skeet, Clive Ford called Helsinki, Winston Long, Kerry Cromwell, Odell Roberts called Gully, Paul Garaya, Jamal Ford, Sean Harris called Shawnee, and Jason Howard had escaped from the Lusignan holding bay in July of 2017. Clive Ford, called Helsinki, was later shot dead by police in East Le Penitence, while many of the others have been recaptured. Mark Royden Williams, ex-cop Uri Varswick, Staffrey Hopkinson, Cornelius Thomas, Desmond James and Kobina Stevens had escaped from the Camp Street jail on July 9. Varswick was shot and killed by police in Linden, allegedly in a gun battle. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. After the break, bodies of father and son found in their home. Bodies must have been lying there for days, relatives say. Stay with us, HGP. Welcome back to the HGP Nightly News. A double homicide in the Police A Division. A pandit and his son have been killed. Here are more details. Crime scene investigators, with the help of relatives, were able to identify the two homicide victims after their bodies were discovered Tuesday morning in their Craig Street, Camberville home. Police responded to a frantic call that an unusual stench odor had been emanating from the home. When they arrived, they found the bodies of 29-year-old Umkar Lilia and his father, 62-year-old Dianarine Lilia, in the upper flat of the home with marks of violence about the bodies. Dianarine's brother, Jairam Lilia, provided more details as to how his brother and nephew's bodies were discovered. He said his nephew had mental issues but was recovering well.
I got a call from US this morning about 8 o'clock with my brother's son. And he said, chat to Jairam, if we could come urgent because the tenant said they're getting a foul smell. And them in here about my brother, my big brother. But I was on a job and I called my son immediately. I said, left what you're doing and come here. And then he said, Daddy, you got to left what you're doing also and come because this happened. When I come, this is what I see. I ain't go in the house. I ain't know who dead yet, buddy. And this was up to now.
They lived alone?
Pardon me?
They lived alone upstairs?
Yes, sir.
They lived alone. Any
Yeah.
business transaction they do here, sir?
Yeah, they do grinding and masala and jira, they grind downstairs and so on.
Right.
That's all I could say, buddy.
How long have they been doing that for?
Years.
Any problems with anybody?
Nobody, no. He's a pandit, live good at everybody in the neighborhood. Yeah.
Do you know if the son had was recently hospitalized for mental issues or so?
Yeah, but as we speak here, he was good. He was okay.
But he was hospitalized?
Yes, sir.
Sources familiar with the investigation said there were clear signs of foul play and are handling the case as a homicide investigation. The house had been ransacked, and it appears as though the bodies had been there for almost 2 days. The father's body was found in the hallway while the son's body was found in the bedroom. A neighbor told reporters that he last saw the father live last weekend.
When's the last time you saw the two?
I saw the dad on Saturday because I I came in the country Saturday morning. So I saw him Saturday, he reached out, he said, hey neighbor, welcome back, how you doing? I said, all right, well, we can catch up a little later, and this is the last time I saw him.
What do you know about the relationship between the son and the father?
Not much. I've been missing for the last 6 years.
For 6 years, and after 6 years you're back?
Well, I'd go and come, but I'd come for a week, see them, hey, hello, how you doing? So that's the extent of what I know about their relationship. I know the son, before we left, they used to have some little issues, little family issues, but nothing out of the norm.
Police dusted the crime scene for fingerprints and checked to see what security cameras were nearby. Security cameras are installed at the house where the bodies were found. Crime sleuths could not immediately say what were taken from the home. Devendradat Lilia said that even though Omkar had been having mental issues, he was not abusive towards his dad.
Father and son. Father and son.
He had
of
a
course.
sister used to live there?
A sister, she migrated.
She migrated. Was the son abusive towards the sister?
No.
Was he abusive towards the father?
No, not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of.
Up to news time, the crime scene had not been released to relatives as police continue their investigation. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. The combined labor movement is insisting that a standalone ministry to deal with workers' issues is needed. The National Assembly will on Thursday hear the motion. Chevron Vickery reports.
It was Gillian Burton Prasad in the National Assembly who moved the motion at the last sitting of Parliament. The motion was seconded by fellow PPP Member of Parliament Kamal Chand. General Secretary of the Ghana Trades Union Congress Lincoln Lewis expressed support for the move by Burkett Prasad, adding that this echoes the sentiments of the Trades Union Congress, which is of the opinion that not enough is being done to address workers' welfare issues. Lewis expressed optimism that the National Assembly will expeditiously come to a conclusion on the matter when it is tabled on Thursday. He also believes that the motion should be welcomed by members of the government's side of the House.
The trade union community, in unison, expects that the motion will see spirited discussion on the workers' contribution to building this nation from the ground up with their sweat. Much of it have been intermingled with blood and tears of centuries of exploitation and discrimination.
President David Granger on May 1 had indicated that there was no intention by the government to add additional ministries. He stated that each ministry already has its roles and responsibilities. Lewis claimed that workers are relegated to an era in which their labor is considered a burden. He reiterated the point that workers must be treated with respect.
The industrial relation climate is at its nadir. Rumblings are increasing with regard to the disrespect for collective bargaining, where workers are unionized. The non-enforcement of labor laws such as the Trade Union Recognition Act, termination of Severance Pay Act, and the absence of any known national program.
Javon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
Police have launched an investigation into the landing of a private chartered aircraft at the Chedi Jagan International Airport Monday afternoon. The four said ranks of the Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit were immediately alerted and conducted the preliminary inspection of the aircraft and discovered a number of irregularities which were promptly reported to higher authorities. It was revealed that the pilots and passengers were invited to Guyana by Mr. Michael Brassington, who police say was at the airport to receive them, and the handling permission form listed Roraima Airways Incorporated as the handling agent for the aircraft, the police force said. The Guyana Police Force added that further inquiries revealed that the registration number on the aircraft may be a false one, as another aircraft is reportedly carrying the same registration number, and further that the data plate which contains vital information about the aircraft is missing. After the information surfaced, Michael Brassington and the four passengers went to the CID headquarters on their own accord. The two pilots were later accompanied to CID by Kanu ranks. Nightly News understands that the four passengers, two of whom are attorneys at law, are Venezuelan nationals. The aircraft has since been detained as the investigation continues. Check my track record. I've always had victories. That's the response by Attorney General Bassett Williams on the third-term ruling by the CCJ and whether this victory has bolstered his chances at retaining the PNC chairmanship. Here are the details. Adding his voice to the June 26 Caribbean Court of Justice ruling that two-term presidential term limits in Guyana must remain intact in keeping with the 2001 constitutional amendment, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Bassett Williams has described the ruling as a change in the political spectrum in Guyana.
Because you cannot begin to fathom the implications of such a decision, but it would change the entire political spectrum of Guyana and people's approach to politics in Guyana.
The case file, the Attorney General of Guyana versus Cedric Richardson, the Caribbean Court of Justice ruled that an amendment that barred presidents of the Republic of Guyana from serving more than 2 terms in office was a valid amendment to the Constitution. The case had reached the Caribbean Court of Justice after Guyana's Court of Appeal, by a 2-1 majority, had upheld the country's High Court ruling that the 2-term presidential limit had been unconstitutional. Then Chancellor of the Judiciary Karl Singh and then Appellate Judge B.S. Roy had upheld former Chief Justice Ian Chang's ruling that the amendment of the Guyana's Constitution in 2001 to provide for term limits could not have been done by the Parliament, only by a referendum.
Remember, Karl Singh only gave me 2 weeks to prepare in the Court of Appeal. So I decided after the Court of Appeal that I was going to dig down for this case, and that's what I did. The only question with me as Attorney General is just time. But I mean, I know how to focus on a case. Once I focus on a case, as far as I'm concerned, that's it.
Bassett Williams is the incumbent People's National Congress Reforms chairman. He is being challenged by Minister of State Joseph Harmon and Minister of Public Health Valda Lawrence. Mr. Williams was asked whether this victory at the CCJ has bolstered his chances of retaining the chairmanship of the PNCR.
Why would you say that? I've always been having victories. You all know me. I am known, you know. I am known. You know my work. I worked 2 years without pay in the Rodney Commission of Inquiry. I worked without pay in the Linden Commission of Inquiry. I worked without pay in the Globe Trust for all the customers. You know me. I worked for Benchap for 5 years. You know. So I don't know why y'all keep forgetting my record. But as I say, the PNC people and PNC members are very sensible people. Very sensible. They've proven that over the years.
If the PNCR's leader resigns or is no longer able to hold office, the chairman acts as leader for a period until Congress is held to elect a new leader.
I wouldn't insult my people to say I will win again or not. I'm saying they're sensible, they're bright, I have a track record. Who wants to challenge me must show their track record of achievements for the PNC. That's all. And in fact, we don't discuss our business in public.
The ruling by the CCJ has put the final nail in the opposition leader Bar Jack Deo's presidential ambitions. Jack Deo is already on record saying that, in spite of the CCJ's ruling, he will remain the PPP's boss. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. In the courts, Jevon Vickery reports that a man who startled a woman in the middle of the night after breaking into her home was granted $40,000 bail. Here's more.
The 27-year-old resident of Diamond Housing Scheme denied before Chief Magistrate Ann McLennan that on July 7 at Port Kaituma he broke and entered the home of Shondell Jagan with intent to commit a felony. Police prosecutor Gordon Mansfield told the court that the accused, Ravi McTurk and Jagan, are known to each other. Mansfield stated that Jagan told police that she frequently saw him in the area. According to the prosecution, on the night of the incident, Jagan recalled being awakened by suspicious sounds in her living room. When she investigated, she saw nothing and went back to bed. Police stated that Jagan was awakened again by the noise, and when she raised her head, McTurk was standing by her bedroom door. The woman recounted that when she tried to raise an alarm, the accused man said, quote, "Stay quiet, I come to take a taste," end of quote. The chief magistrate, despite objections by the prosecution, granted bail in the sum of $40,000. The matter was transferred to the Matthews Ridge Magistrates Court for August 7. Javon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
The government is apparently pleased with the results of the National Grade 6 Assessment exams, and Minister of State Joseph Harmon has offered the administration's warm congratulations to the successful students. Colin Abrams reports.
Let me congratulate those students who wrote the National Grade 6 Assessment examination and the excellent results which they actually turned in. So I want to congratulate all of those students.
The government is also taking some of the credit for the improved performance of students at the examinations.
But more particularly, I would like to address the students in the public schools, because all along the private schools have always been doing exceedingly well. But the public schools have actually started to turn around the situation, and this year they've done very well. I believe this in large measure is due to several factors. One has to do with the fact that students are now provided with transportation to school, the 5Bs program, that's one thing. Secondly, that's to the fact that there's an active and vibrant school feeding program which allows for students to be fed at school. Thirdly, it has to do, of course, with the fact that after the 2016 results, government had made an emergency intervention, particularly to look at the results in mathematics and English.
But despite the laudatory remarks, Minister Harmon expressed the view that the state still has to do much more to enhance the educational standards of Guyana's future leaders.
I believe our future is in good hands when we look at the results coming out of these examinations with these students. Even though I say that, I know that we still have a very far way to go in being able to provide and deliver the quality education that is needed for Guyana and the modern Guyana.
The administration on Sunday last committed $1.8 million to assist two students of Linden who gained entrance to top schools at this year's National Grade 6 assessment. For the HGP Nightly News, Colin Abrams.
Thank you, Colin. Your sportscast is ahead.
Thanks for staying tuned. I'm Colin Abrams with the HGP Sportscast. We start with cycling news. Rain did not deter cyclists at the Malta Supreme Cycling Meet on Saturday last in the National Park Circuit.
Warren McKay was the man of the day when he copped the win in the 35-lap and veteran under 50 races. Despite the harsh weather, McKay managed to pull the title with a time of 1 hour, 13 minutes and 12 seconds in the main race of the day, followed by Christopher Griffith and Romello Crawford. National Senior Road Race champion Curtis Day, along with Diraj Garbaran and Paul Dinobrega, completed the top 6 positions. Dinobrega led a 4-man break in the third lap. McKay and the rest of the bunch tried desperately to reconnect, eventually doing so in the 29th lap. Jaheim Henry won the BMX 9-12 and 12-14 races. Ian Jackson claimed the veteran over 50 event. David Hicks captured the boys and girls 12-14 trophy. Mario King won the mountain bike event and Jessica Mohabir the BMX 6-9 title. Colin Abrams reporting for the HGP Sports.
Competitions Director of the GFF, Ian Al, says the Federation has to play catch-up so as to complete the current season of the GFF Elite League.
We're looking on with keen interest at the second half because as it is now, we are in the middle of the transfer window, the pre-season transfer window, and a number of the elite clubs have used the opportunity to boost up the potency for the second half. There's been a lot of movement of players. Some have gotten players in positions that they thought were deficient previously. So we expect keen competition going into this second half.
That was Ian Alves, GFF Competitions Director, speaking with Nightly News about his expectations heading into the second half of the Elite League, which began last weekend. The Federation has released its fixtures for this half, which shows multiple double and triple headers. Mr. Alves explains the reason for this.
One of the things that happened is that due to the inclement weather and other factors, we had a very long delay before we could have continued in the second half. So as a result, we are now forced to play catch-up, as you would say in colloquial terms. And also, many of the venues as it is now, are unplayable. So as a result of that also, we have limited venues and we have 45 matches to complete. So as a result, we are forced to use 2 venues now. We're using the GFC ground, hopefully on Fridays for doubleheaders, and the National Track and Field Center for tripleheaders on Sunday, in order that we can complete prior to the start of the new season.
Al said a number of teams have been showing improvement since the reopening, and this may have been a result of teams taking advantage of the current transfer window.
I saw Denham still on Friday evening looking very good. I saw them play a practice match against Ifat Warriors the weekend before also, and they were looking quite good as they won on Friday. As it is now, Fruta Conquerors also look well Friday evening. We're looking to see today how these other teams will look. Buxton and Ansgrove seem to be quite balanced thus far.
After the conclusion of last weekend's matches, we now see Western Tigers moving up from second to first place in the league's points table. This resulted in Fruta Conquerors now holding second position. Denamsa are in third position and Victoria Kings in fourth. Last season's winners, GDF, are in the middle of the table at number 5. At the bottom of the table are Buxton United FC, Malrock FC, Cougars FC, Ansgrove United FC, and New Amsterdam United FC, respectively. The GFF Elite League will continue on Friday at the GFC ground. For the HGP Sports, Colwyn Abrams.
Technology is here to stay, and all we have to do is to embrace it. Director of Sports Christopher Jones says it will play a major role in producing local athletes. Stanford Howard has the details.
On Saturday last at the STEM Robotics Exhibition Show, which was held at Cliff Anderson Sports Hall, HGP Sports discussed with Director of Sports Christopher Jones how technology is to be integrated into local sports and how local athletes could derive benefit from technology.
Indeed, technology can play and does in some countries play a major role as it relates to sports because essentially there are ways in which you could record an athlete on the field, digitalize them, and you could do what is called a kind of X-ray to see how that person, how they move their arms, how they move their legs, and so you can guide that athlete as to how best to place and so forth.
The Director of Sports stated that other countries have already incorporated technology into sports and that Guyana, not wanting to be left behind, is looking to do so as well.
We will have to embrace technology, and of course, Sports Commission, we are watching to see in ways in which sports can tap into that stream so as to benefit sports in Guyana.
The director also referred to the timeline for Guyana to join the international community to incorporate advanced technology into sports.
Not only finances as well, but I mean, we got locations in which internet is not accessible, so you have those challenges as well.